Hello, friends. I have what I think is a good one, okay? Um, have you, as a woman or even as a man, ever have been told about the Proverbs 31 woman? And in your mind, you go like, who is that broad and why are you talking about her? Okay? I get it. Everybody it's just this uh thing that they tell women about how to be a woman, and you need to be a Proverbs 31 woman or a Titus woman or whatever. So I had to pause for a second, but okay, so I did a video a while ago regarding the book that Allison Barr wrote called The Making of Biblical Womanhood. And look, don't go anywhere, okay? I'm gonna tell you about this because this is really, really kind of important, not only for women, but it's very important for men to know this. Okay? What happened in this book, she talks about church hurt and stuff like that. And then she proceeds to tell us how egalitarianism, okay, which means that both men and women are allowed to be part of all the things of God, both in the churches and in life, right? And you have complementarism that says, oh yeah, we're both equals but made different, okay? And then women are not allowed to be part of any church government. We should stay at home. Especially keep in mind that one, women should stay at home mothers and be a supportive spouse to their husbands, okay? That's what the churches, most of the Christian churches believe. And the men on those churches are very much willing and able to support this because it benefits them, okay? And so I did a video and I called it "The Problem with Churches is that they are full of weak men." And that's not my phrase, that's my husband's phrase. Okay? It sure is. So, and I agree with the man here, not because he's my husband, but he's very smart. So somebody put a comment on that video and just said, quoted Proverbs 31 woman. Like that's a commentary in and of itself. And I started to thinking, I have been spending some time vlogging my way through this book called Stories with Intent, a comprehensive guide to the parables of Jesus. And what it does, it gives you, it's giving me an insight on how to further understand and really pay attention to the text of Scripture. So I want to tell you about the Proverbs 31 woman, especially Proverbs 31. Is the last Proverbs of the book of Proverbs, and most of the Proverbs in the book are pitty little statements. Do this, don't do that. Do this, do that. And so, like, if you go to let's start on. Let me just do chapter 30. Uh, uh, Let me see. Actually, that one is different. Hang on. Let's do. He who is often reproved yet stiffens his neck will suddenly be broken beyond healing. Or when the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. So it's a bunch of petty little sayings that are not exactly rules for life, okay? But they're statements about reality, okay? And some are things that you look at them and you're supposed to sit and meditate. Why is that? How would that be? Okay, the entire Bible really is meditation literature. Okay, and you read it once and you'll get something, and then you read it again and read and you will get something else, and so you'll have over and over again more and more understanding of the layers in the Bible. The Bible is a multifaceted diamond. Okay, it's all there. depending on which side you're looking at it, you'll have a different view. Anyways, but our team today is the Proverb 31 woman. She's she's actually, why don't we go to the text and see what she's supposed to be, and then I'm gonna do a little commentary for you guys while we go through it, because this is important. We women are have been told that we're supposed to aim to be a Proverbs 31 woman, and there's a little bit of context that we have missed altogether, which applies to our modern life, believe it or not. Believe it or not, hang on. Okay, so this is not Proverbs 31. I am on broad Proverbs 31. Okay. I was glancing at it this morning. I want to do a little bit of commentary of on this and help you not view it my way, but sort of get under it and kind of really observe when you read. Because a lot of the times, okay, so there's this one. For instance, when Noah's Ark landed on the mountains of Ararat, right? That's what you remember, sort of. But the Bible doesn't say that. It says Noah's Ark landed in Mount Ararat. It's a very small thing, okay? Is a very small thing. It's a very small detail that you might never ever come across again, or it wouldn't matter unless you were in jeopardy, I guess. But the whole point is that's how we read the Bible. Okay, we have the three wise men. You know, the Bible never tells you how many were there. It just tells you that there were gold, myrrh, and frankincense. They were the gifts, but it never tells you that there was three wise men. Okay, but in our culture, in our minds, this is what it is, right? So the whole point is for you to get beyond that. And when you sit with any text of scripture, really look behind it. Really look at it. Okay. So let's talk about this one. It says, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. An oracle that his mother taught him. Now, who's the author of this particular proverb? Not King Lemuel, not even his mother. Where do oracles come from? They come from God. Okay, if you look through your Bible, you know, keep the oracles that Jeremiah, Isaiah, and Paul talks about it. I can't remember which book it was, but he says, what good were the Jews? He says a lot because the oracles of God were given to them. Okay, that's where an oracle comes from God. So it was passed down from a woman to King Lemuel. All right. And so when you think about it, you need to be thinking of who is giving you this verse, right? With this proverb, not man, but God. All right, or a God through a woman. It's up to you. It says, "What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my vows?" So imagine that. Who is he in this particular? If this oracle comes from God, he's calling son anybody to whom this proverb is addressed to begin with. Okay, it says, "Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings." So there's a what it's called. So one thing that I did was I looked up the word strength. Okay, because what does that mean? So one of the things that I did, I looked up the word strength. As you can tell, is highlighted. Let me see if I can pull it up. Uh, da-da-da-da. This is this it? Oh wait, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Okay, so Strength is actually the incorrect word, because if you look it up, okay, so let's close all of that and you'll see me look this up, so you can see that I'm not like putting stuff here that don't belong. Okay, bye bye, bye bye. Let's close this guy's up. Okay, let's close this one up too. Okay, again, what is he saying? Do not give your strength to women. Okay, and let's study this word. Okay, as faculty power, but it's also meant to say wealth, property, on land, uh, power as in an army. So that gives you a little more context of what he's talking about. It's not just that. It's not your strength or power. It's your finances. Okay, and it says here, you do not give your strength to women or wealth or power or and then it says, do not give your strength to your ways to those who destroy kings. Do not align yourself with those that are not worthy. Okay. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to take strong drink. What does he say? Keep your. Whose advice is this to, friends? Is this advice to a woman? No. This advice is being given to a man. Okay. What is that? Stay sober, right? Level headed. Don't align yourself with women to whom you give your wealth. Not a wife, not just any woman. Okay. You don't align, as a man, you don't align yourself with just any woman. You don't give your strength, your wealth and money to just any woman. Okay. The same, because you're a king, you also give don't give your allegiance to those that are not worthy. And you also will keep your head level. You need to be level headed. And it says here, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of the afflicted. And let me ask you something. Now, this particular proverb is addressed to a king, but as a Christian man or woman, which part of this does not apply to you? Okay? Which part of this is not applicable to a mature Christian? It says it's not for kings to drink wine. Okay? And he's not talking about the, the drink that they would have all the time would be wine with some water. He's probably talking about the drinking of the wine that makes you drunk or strong drink. Okay, this is more of the kind of drinking that would lead to drunkenness. There's two different things, because they didn't really just drink water. In some cases, water could kill you. All right. So yeah, should a woman be a drunk? Nope. Should a man be a drunk? Nope. Okay. So it applies to all of them. Should you give your money to just any random stranger? Because when the king gives his money to a woman, okay, his wealth, what else is he expecting from her? A woman that is not his wife. And the same for a woman. When she gives her self away, what is she expecting back? This is, so both things apply to both a man and a woman. All right. Again, it says, why should be sober? Because you need to take care of those that need to be taken care of. You don't want to pervert the rights of the afflicted. Is that the same for a man and a woman? Yes. I says, now, see, and now God is not saying you don't drink at all. It says there's times where you need to drink, but as you are in charge, you need to be clear-headed, level-headed. Okay, he says, give strong drink to the one that is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Look, if someone's dying, it's kind of like what you do these days with people that are in a lot of pain. They're dying of cancer or some terrible disease, and they give them morphine. You're not worried about them developing a habit. You're not worrying about what long term effects this is going to have, because there is no long term effect. Someone that this is on their deathbed just needs a little comfort to ease the pain to move them on to the next stage. And so he's saying, just, someone that's dying, let them have their drink. And someone that is really having a hard time, give them wine. Now, we have the bad habit of abusing everything. So would I necessarily no? What he's saying is, in those times, yeah, a little bit of one would ease you some of your pain, some of your distress, but you can exchange that for anything. You can give a word of comfort, kindness, some warm food, baked goods if you're in your kitchen, whatever. Okay. Now, let them drink and forget their poverty and remember the misery no more. So this is just comfort, right? Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. And it's just saying, as a king, as a Christian, both man and woman, if you're in a place of privilege, your job is to take care of those that cannot take care of themselves, those that do not have a voice to speak for themselves. It says, open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. Now, there's poor and there's poor, okay? But, and the ones that need, that are needy. And so you're supposed to use what we call Christian discernment. Uh, you know, uh, a neighbor that makes twice as much money as you do and somehow goes on vacation, has a boat and a yacht and a fancy car and all the gadgets and stuff like that, and comes to you to give him some food. Well, personally, I would not deny the person, if, but as a Christian, you'd have a talk about it. Like, you could sell all your stuff and have food or whatever. You're not supposed to use Christian discernment when it comes to this sort of things. And so that apply only to men? Nope, applies to women. See, for both. And then now it goes again. She's telling him, okay, here's another thing. An excellent wife who can find. She's far more precious than jewels. So because this is addressed to a man regarding women, we think, oh, well, this applies to women, right? Well, does is an excellent husband far more precious than jewels? Absolutely. You want both your husband, as me, or your wife to be excellent, right? And uh that makes them precious, okay? So it says here, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. Okay, so your husband should be able to trust you. Okay, so as a wife, you should be able to trust your husband on all things. Because here's the other thing, right? In our, if you follow the standard of the Christian complementarism, complementarian thing, the husband goes to work and the wife stays home. But anything major, she needs to call him and find out what he wants to do. That's not trusting your wife. My husband was gone all day when he stayed home, when I stayed at home, and he was gone all day, and I was left to figure out all the things of the house. And he trusted that he just dropped his paycheck, and that was it. He like, okay, here's a check. You do all the financial decisions and stuff like that. I'm and busy working. Because he's busy working. He doesn't have time with that. But you know what he had? He had me to trust. And the same in the same way, when I had to go to work and he stayed home, it was the same. Here's the paycheck. This is what we have. The kids need to be fed. We need to be fed. The mortgage needs to be paid and all of that. And he was in charge of figuring out, okay, he went to the grocery store. I'm gonna get this, and that. And my kids were fed, they were taken care of. But if my husband had decided I'm going to be a man and I'm not going to do anything that a woman has to do, then it would have been some tough times. So being a very good at it. Well, I had training. Uh-huh. So both men and women, okay, are supposed to be able to trust their spouse implicitly, make decisions. And there are and for sure there are times that I called my husband and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this, what do you think? And then we'd discuss it and we figure it out together. And the same when I was working, he'd say, oh, I want to do this, what do you think? Oh, well, let's talk about it. And that's it. Okay. So the beauty of it is, if you meet someone, if you marry someone you can respect and trust, you both will almost 99.99% of the time will end up with the same decision, because you both have the same purpose in mind. Okay, so she does him good and not harm all the days of her life. Is a husband supposed to do that? Yep. He's not. He's supposed to do you good and not harm all the days of his life either. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. Okay, here's one thing that I wanted. This is definitely really, really important. I want you to, if you take nothing else away from this video, this is really important. The complementarian attitude of the current evangelical church wants to tell you that the place of a woman is in the home, and the men out there doing the working and the living and all of that. Right. Except that you're not understanding the historical context of all of the writings in the Bible. In the day, women worked all the time. And the only reason they worked at home is because that's where everybody worked. Okay, you did farming, you made your own clothes, you made your own whatever, you did business, everybody worked from home, both husbands and wives. The center of commerce was your home. Okay, your farm. You'd you would go to the whatever, you could probably have a little market where you took your extras to trade and all of that. But for the most part, both husband and wife work from home. They both did. So you need, so when you want to say that a woman belongs at home all the time, well, you need to read things in context. You need to understand the historical background of all of this. Okay. So she seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. So just the ability of not being idle at home, right? And she's like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. So that means, she negotiates, all of these things. She rises while it's yet night and provides food for her household and portion from her maidens. You notice one thing here. She's bringing money into the house. Should a husband bring money into the house? Well, if he's in charge, yes. If he's working, but I think the thing is that this is not supposed to be just one person taking care of the home. The home is a living entity, and it takes two people to run it properly. Okay, it's one of the saddest things to me is single parents. I mean, I was partially raised by a single mother, and things were really tough. Okay. So women say all the time, well, I could do it all by myself. Look, my husband could do it all by himself. I could do it all by myself, but it wouldn't be very good. It wouldn't be very elegant. And things would end up sipping through the cracks. Okay. So she's like the ships of the merchant. She brings from afar, all of this, right? And again, if she wasn't around, this is something that is reciprocal. This is also a man's job, okay, to take care of their house. So not everybody does the same things in the house, but if one of them is unable to do the one thing, then the other one picks up the slack. So there are times where I right now I have an issue with my thyroid, and there are days I wake up and it's just the day is not happening. Okay, none. I'm just like in bed and I'm like, you guys need to figure it out. So my husband, what does he do? He takes care of the house. He takes wakes the kids up. He does all the things that I do in the morning because sometimes I just don't want to do it. I can't. So again, hi darling. So she considers a field and buys it with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard. What is she saying here? There's more than just physical things, okay? It's more than just cooking and cleaning and all of that. She's a businesswoman. Okay, she has a business at home because everybody had a business at home, and she has finances. Okay, she's investing. She's doing all these things. Okay, she dresses herself with strength. It makes her arms strong. It's just her children. She dresses herself with strength. It makes her arms strong. We live in a society where girls talk about wanting a 6 foot tall man, and he has to be this and that, and girls have to be fit and trim, and we all want this appearances. But let me share this with you. My husband showed me this YouTube short the other day, or was it on X? And this girl was talking about how she wasn't really interested in really fit dudes, right? That they were really muscly and stuff. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Right? She says, I want someone that has a belly. She says, because I know that he's going to go to brunch in the mornings with me. He's going to be a little less lax. If I'm marry a really fit man, he's going to want to be working out first thing in the morning and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, it's not all about appearances. Okay, it really, really isn't. Okay, so let's see. Then he goes on to tell you all the things that she does. She's a busy woman. She's a businesswoman, and she works from home. And I'm gonna tell you again, not because that's where women are supposed to work from, but because that's where everybody worked from. Okay, and she's telling you all the things. She makes linen garments. She has dignity and all of that, and she looks at the future and laughs. She's like, it's okay, I got it covered, right? And every time she opens her mouth, there's wisdom in them, the teachings, and she's kind and careful. Her children love her and all of that. Now, what I'm trying to get at this at the end of all of this is, here's the last thing. What is the biggest what is the biggest praise here? Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears God is to be praised. Okay? What is her biggest, most the best her best feature? She loves God. And should a woman love the Lord? Absolutely. How about a man? Yep, him too. Okay, so she's well known. Now, an excellent husband who wants one brings you a cup of coffee. Look, so what, if nothing else, what I want you to understand is when you read the Bible literally, right? So you cannot but help but come up with the idea that women are supposed to stay at home. But when you read the Bible in its context, you understand that uh, all people work from home for the most part, unless you were a merchant and whatever. But their businesses were with them. I remember listening to a lecture from Susan Heck, and she said, the women of the Bible would have thought of women today as ridiculous, okay, because they were busy all the time. And I'm going to tell you one more thing about the importance of women for the gospel. I firmly believe that the reason we have not been able to, that the church has not been able to advance further is because we have denied entry into the church government, women. Okay. If you spend some time reading the gospel, all your gospels, watch out for the women there. Okay. Jesus's ministry and the apostles' ministry was made possible by the money of women of wealth. Okay. They took care of his needs. Or did I mean, he was an itinerary preacher, rabbi. So he had no money, he had no clothes, he had nowhere to sleep, nowhere to lay his head, as he tells you himself. And you're told in the Gospel of Luke that all his needs were met by women of means. One of the women, Joanna, I was sharing this with my husband yesterday as I'm reading through the parables, was the wife of the housekeeper of King Herod. Okay? These people were not poor. These women were not poor. And they took care of all the financial need of Jesus. So you need to really rethink the role of women, not only the way you read them in the Bible, but the way you address them today. Now think it this way. Okay, think about it this way. Let's say Jesus, he went through his whole ministry, he did all the things he did, and he's about to leave. And do you imagine that after he availed himself of the resources, the protection, the care of the women, he said, "Well, you know what? Your money was nice, the food you fed me was good, but it's time for us to evangelize now, and you guys are not welcome." Does that even sound like Jesus Christ? And here's the other thing, okay? When everybody abandoned Jesus on the cross, the only ones that remained were women, okay, and John, I believe. But the only ones that stayed of all his disciples, it was women that stayed behind. Okay, it's just read it within context. Find the women in there. And so, if Jesus had such a high view of women and what they could do for the gospel, here's another thing. If you read a little bit, understand a little bit of church history, women were being put in prison. They were being punished and all that. And this is not because they made sandwiches. No one was put in prison for making sandwiches and serving food. They were.
No one was fed to the lions for making a sandwich.
That's right. No one was fed to the lions for making a sandwich. These women were participant of the gospel. All right. Now, you as a woman today, as women, we need to just, and I'm not saying you go in and say, I am woman, hear me roar. But what I am saying is, don't let yourself be gaslit by the church and the people around that tell you that, oh no, you need to, you can't participate in the church. And until we move from that, the church is not moving forward. I'm sorry, but that's how I see it. And I could be wrong and we could disagree, and that's all right. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope this helps you. I'm sort of doing 3-minute videos here and there as I go through the parables and the book I'm reading, and I also want to share a series of book with you, but that would be for later. As I when I get the last book, so 3-book series, but it's taking like 2-3 weeks now since I ordered that book, and
One still ain't here. I think the
one,
10th, they
yeah,
said.
yeah, there's sometime next week is supposed to be here, and I want to talk to you about it because I started reading the first one and it was immediately uh it's mind blowing. And there's another book. So this is let me just tell you how I do. Obviously I read my Bible. I have that a couple books that I'm reading that are paperbacks, and then at night I'll read uh, another book that I'm reading from John Walton. Now I can't remember the name right now, and I started reading. Actually, started reading the Lords of the Rings, which I was the wrong audience 20 years ago. I started reading it, and I was like, "Yes, it's boring." Anyways, I picked it up again, and actually, it's been really interesting. And then I want to talk to you about Jane Eyre because I read that book when I first got to this country 35, almost 40 years ago. And as I do some of my chores and I put it on and I listen to it, it hits different now. Anyways, all of that to say is just stay interested, read, listen to audiobooks, question things. Uh, grow your mind. All right. Anyways, God bless. Bye bye.